Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's been a while. Yeah, sorry I haven't gotten a video out to you guys in a while. I've just been really busy. Been out of town the past couple weeks. Going out of town again for a tryout this weekend, but wanted to make sure I got one video out to you all before I leave. I just had a couple things I wanted to get out there before I start this video. First thing is I had my first round of private lessons this past month, and I think they went really well. I really enjoyed them. I think the people that signed up got a few good tips out of it. They all seemed pretty happy with the result, I think. And yeah, so there's a couple slots still open for my schedule. If you're interested at all, I'll link a Google Forms in the description, and yeah, just fill it out. No pressure whatsoever. But if you think it's something you might be interested in, definitely give it a shot. Second thing, more of a clarifying thing for my last video. I had a friend reach out and make a really good point about the way that I was titling my videos and the language I was using in my videos. So first thing I just wanted to fix real quick was in my last video, I said, should Carleton have won the national championship? It was a bit of a clickbaity title just in general. But I just wanted to clarify that it's obviously not the national championships. It is the men's national championships for college. And in general, I think I could do a lot better job of my use of language and how I'm talking about the sport. Obviously, I play in the men's division. I played college men's and club, all that sort of stuff. So that's sort of the language I'm used to using. But of course, that's no excuse. I need to do a better job of just sort of clarifying what I'm talking about. And definitely in the future, I also just want to start using more women's and mixed clips for my videos. So look out for that. And again, I'm going to be working with this friend hopefully in the future to help me sort of use more women's footage in general, and sort of just make sure that what I'm saying is correct. So yeah, thank you to that friend for reaching out to me, and hopefully I'll be better moving forward. Let's see. Yeah, I think the last thing I wanted to say was just for this video, obviously there were a lot of requests for me to do the UNC-UNCW semis game from back in 2017. And so yeah, that's this is part one for that video. I'm gonna kind of break it up in two different parts because I'm not trying to do a super long video. So I think splitting up in two parts made sense. So this is sort of the first half where I mainly just talk and break down what sort of strategies both teams use on offense and defense, and just how different those strategies are, and how it's sort of set up for a really epic finish. So I hope you all enjoy the video, and yeah, I'm looking forward to getting part two out there sometime next week. So enjoy. All right, so the first thing that I want to talk about before we get into the video is just how differently these two teams play. UNC was and remains to be today a very skilled team with talented break throwers, and they were really good at swinging the disc side to side to change the angle of attack. And they thrived on kind of setting up isolation space for cutters with that lateral attacking motion, and they were just really good at dinking the disc up the field with that small ball movement until they scored. And UNC Wilmington, on the other hand, we had probably less skilled throwers, less skilled players, but we had a bunch of big athletes that were really fast, really good at making plays in the air. And we had a couple of players who were really strong throwers that could bomb a disc full field. And so what we tried to do was sort of set up those really skilled throwers to be touching the disc as much as possible, and sort of wait for a moment for when we could attack with a big huck downfield. So you'll see in this video, and I'm going to point out next, just how differently these two teams set up their offense, and you'll kind of begin to get a picture of just how both of these offenses work. And then sort of in the next video, I'll sort of talk about what adjustments we made to sort of take UNC out of their rhythm. So in this clip here, I'm going to show you how UNC does a great job of setting up those isolation cuts that I was talking about. And in just two throws, UNC is going to get the disc upfield, and pretty much have everyone behind the disc except for that one isolated cutter like we were talking about. So just in 2 throws, watch where the disc is and watch where all the other players are relative to the disc. So right here, it's a bit of an extreme example. Their offense doesn't look like this all game, but this just does a really good job of showing you what UNC wants to do on offense. They like to set up this big open field space for this one isolated cutter right here, and they want everyone else out of the play to be sort of wide, shallow, out of the way, so no one can poach the disc, and to give this isolation cutter as much room as possible. Now, like I said, this is a bit of an extreme example, but I thought that this was a really cool way to show just how UNC kind of operates and how they use their position to sort of set up these big open spaces for cutters. Typically, these players might be right here on the side a little bit more, but again, the whole point is that they're out of the way so that the thrower and cutter have a bunch of room to work with. So as this point continues, you'll see UNC continue the shape of offense down the field. And as defenders, we should have pushed downfield and clogged up throwing lanes a little bit more to make those throwing lanes a little less open. Right here, you can see that I am trying to poach off of my player to sort of clog up that lane, and I'm almost able to make a play, but I'm not quite going to get there. As the momentum of the offense begins to slow down, UNC does a great job of countering, swinging the disc quickly, and then scoring on the other side. You can see how quickly that JD goes from good defensive positioning to getting scored on the other side because of how quickly and easily UNC switches the field and counters the attack. Now, for us to take a look at the Wilmington offense, you can see that we played an almost polar opposite style to UNC. You can or really can't see just how deep our cutters downfield are because they are off the screen. I have the disc, and we have 3 players close, and almost the rest of the downfield cutters, like I said, are 40 yards downfield, completely off the screen. And again, this is a bit of an extreme example, but if you watch the full game, you'll see this sort of setup from us all game. And having this much space gave our throwers in the backfield, who are our skilled throwers, a lot of room to work with. And because UNC was so afraid of our athleticism on our deep game, they stayed tight to our downfield cutters, even though they are so deep downfield. And in this point, you can see me and Willie Stewart working together until something becomes available downfield. And because of this setup, we were able to create these big unders like this that would help lead to deep shots like this one right here. And we don't end up making this play. It's an incredible play there by Nathan Kwan on UNC. But those were the sort of plays that we were looking to hit and that we were confident in taking because we figured if we hit enough of them, we had a chance to win the game. This point is a really good example of showing how UNC messes up slightly in their positioning offensively and how they want to operate, and then how we sort of counter for a good break opportunity and eventually punch it in for the break. So in this point right here, you're going to see UNC do their nice dump swing over to this open space right here, and you'll see that a deep shot eventually goes up. But because UNC is not wide and shallow enough and not out of the way, the deep shot is a little poached off on, and we're able to make a play on it. So we'll see it right here. So something that UNC does really well is they clear out space from the side that they're trying to attack into, and then they fill from a cutter that's further away, so they're able to gain yardage on this switch. So as the disc gets swung over to the middle of the field here, you can see the far side handler clearing out of the way right here and a cutter coming into that space that's being left. So maybe this cutter's defender sees that there is a player and a defender in that space, so they think they can take a step off and rest, but in reality, that space is being cleared for this player coming down into that open space for yards. So UNC does a really good job of doing that motion over and over again. So what goes wrong in this play is you can see that Walker Matthews is making a cut deep from shallow, which is exactly what UNC likes to do. They like to set up their deep cuts from really shallow so they have a lot of space to throw into. But on screen right here, you can see that there are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dark side players in frame, which means that there's someone off frame in this deep space over here that is still occupying that deep space. And so that player is not shallow enough for this deep cut to be viable. And so when this throw goes up, there's help deep already, which causes some chaos, and we're able to eventually get a block right here. So because UNC wasn't shallow enough like they like their system to be, this deep shot isn't really viable, and we're able to make a play on it. So after the turn, you can now begin to see that we are setting up positionally how we like to set up, which is having one dump close to the disc and a skilled thrower with the disc. And those two are going to try to work together to create something with momentum before we eventually hit a deep shot here. And that's exactly what happens. That is the reason why we leave all this open space for these two players to work, so that eventually when we can break through, we can get something with momentum and hit one of our athletic cutters for a deep shot. And you can see we had not one, not two, but three players that were ready for that shot to come. All of our cutters knew that as soon as one of our skilled throwers got the disc, their job was to bust deep so that we have as many players there to be able to make a play, because again, we trusted our athletes over their athletes, and eventually we were able to punch this in for a break. So these last 2 points before half really do a good job of showing what each team and their offenses do well and what they're trying to do in order to score. So for this first one, I'll let the clip play and then we'll go back and talk about it a little bit. So once again, you can see all of this space that is being given to these three handlers for Wilmington. And as you saw in that clip, Kevin and I are just going to continue playing catch, working with each other until we see something of field that we like. The cutters do a really good job of trying to get open in that space, but also clearing out shallow enough, or sorry, deep enough so that they do not get in the way of the three trying to work with the disc. We're not really getting too far by playing this two-man ball, and we even come really close to turning it over right there. But all we're worried about is just getting that one break through the middle, one power position move, and like we get right here, and then it's off to the races, and we bomb it deep for a goal right there. That does a really good job of showing exactly how we want our offense to operate. It's not the prettiest, but again, it's what we have to work with, and it's playing to our strengths really well. In this point to take half, UNC plays textbook offense for their style. We had just transitioned from zone into a person defense, and UNC right here is going to run a beautiful dump and swing to the other side of the field and then attack with well-timed cuts into the end zone. So we'll play this clip and then go back and review it. The first thing that UNC is going to do when they notice that we transition into person defense is get the disc off the sideline. They're going to run their classic flat side give go in order to get the disc in the middle of the field here. After they run that initial give go, the thrower is one more time going to run that same give go motion, but when he gets looked off, he is then going to continue his cut deep. The cutter that's furthest back is going to recognize that Walker is driving his cut deep, and he's going to time his cut beautifully off of that to fill the space that Walker is leaving. Something that we are going to talk about in the next video is the adjustment and positioning in this downfield defender in the second half. After they hit that under, Walker does a great job of then clearing out wide and out of the way to set up yet another one-on-one isolation cut for Gooch coming into the open space here. And then once Gooch catches that under, Walker realizes that he is then at a very good depth that is nice and shallow, and he sees this open space in the end zone, so then he decides to attack it in a straight line, and Gooch is able to put the disc out into space for a nice throw and a goal, taking half. Like I said, in the next video that comes out, we're going to cover the second half and talk about the adjustments that we make as a team in order to try and take UNC out of their rhythm. I hope you guys liked this video, and make sure you tune in for the next one where the real fun stuff happens.